Yeah, I
It's
think
interesting.
assumptions about the questions, like you pointed to, we made a big assumption around more kids, you know how to budget. Um, or even like I think we were largely early risers, and so that seemed like the best thing. So our background or context influencing our response.
Yeah, for sure. The last question we ask you of like who had the most info. So we do a number of things in terms of analysis from the data that we get, right? Is to see like who's in a group together and how close is the algorithm this group designs to the shared variables of the group. So that's for our own analysis, for our own research. Certainly. I think you've also mentioned this one that like these are deeply cultural context like concepts, right? Inte Integrity and financial responsibility are vague on the best
Yeah.
days, but also they are all over the map in terms of what they mean to people all over the world.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it was the question itself as well, was
Hugely
what does
problematic.
being financially responsible mean? Does it
Yeah,
have that element of responsible towards the environment? I was, yeah, struggling a little bit with that, I think.
yeah, as you
So,
as you should, because I guarantee it's not just culturally different, it's individually different what this means to people. The other one is this is a bit, and again, this is a huge real world parallel. All the data that we've been working this AI on is just something you self-reported about yourself. I would love to be the kind of person that takes an insect out of my house like this, but I'm not. But I might tell you that I am. And if you ask me to fill out this survey, I might say like, yeah, I definitely take insects out. I'm not. I'm I kill the insects in the house. I wish I didn't, but I do. And so for all, we have to think about the quality of the data that we actually have to build our AIs with, and that is true here, even though this is fairly inconsequential. But it's very much also true when we actually deploy these AIs. Another one is we you touched on this one already, Steve, and then we have interesting things that happen when we put people in groups. And again, we've done this all over the world, and in some cases, it's like super like professional environments with people that barely know each other, and they might agree to some algorithm to work in some way just because they don't want to upset like the group dynamic, right? And I've seen people, it's interesting what happens when you have some more dominant types in a group, and put those in a group with people that are maybe less dominant or a little bit more timid or maybe less senior than the other people in the group, and they might agree to things that they actually don't agree with. Similarly, again, real world parallels here are psychological safety, right? Around are people that are building algorithms actually empowered to speak up about the things that they think might go wrong. I've had we do a version of this workshop with for engineers, right? So it's just only for engineers, and it's more about like learning the language to represent some of the issues. And I had someone who said to me, like, I've genuinely been instructed by my boss to scrape BuzzFeed quiz data to build some algorithm off of, and I just don't even have the language to speak to her about why that's wrong. But I also, even if I did, don't have the position to do that because I'm just here to do my job. And so I think this is very important in the real world as well. The other way in which, yes, do please, Andy, is the way in which the form is organized, right? The order might give you some sort of immediacy bias for the higher up questions. Once you get to the bottom, you might have fatigue and you might be like, oh, well, this now we have to do the slider again and the everything. So there's ways in which, and this is the real world parallel here, is that the technical constraints under which you're building your AI systems may very well influence and do often influence how your AIs work. Some more things I've heard over the years of doing this. Do step parents count as parents? Doesn't specify. Um, the regions that we have of where are you from in the world, very Western division. Middle East, not on there, just counted straight as Asia. Some people actually answer that question like, where are you from, like right now, today? Where did you come in from today to do this exercise? Or where were you born, which can be very different for some people. There's actually some duplicates in the age range. So if you're 50, you're in both, you can be in both groups. I didn't catch that because the one I am in, I perfectly divided into two groups because of course I did. This is one that I hear a lot. we didn't have time to consider that, so we left it out of the algorithm. It was hard to reach consensus, so we left it out of the algorithm. This was a difficult one. We didn't really want to touch that subject, so we left it out of the algorithm. Might have been super relevant, but we in our group didn't really want to talk about that. So think about all of these ways in which, like, the conditions under which you're making things heavily influence. Now, as final takeaways, I hope you'll have felt the sheer humanity that goes into every AI, even the most basic ones we built today, and know that this is true for every single thing that our AIs do. There is no such thing as a bias-free algorithm. It doesn't exist. Not all of our biases, however, are intended, are ethical, are legal, or actually are the ones we want. And finally, the best way to increase responsibility in AI is to increase the awareness of what they're doing, why they're doing what they're doing, where they work well, where they don't work well, etc. So those are my top 3 takeaways. I'll post these on the Miro board as well, so you can keep that. That's there for keeps, as well as all the source material for the presentation. So with that, that's all for me.